This is Ndtv, and you're watching Classics.
If you're an exporter, a buyer or a seller on the internet, chances are that you'll be logging on to tradeindia.com. Our guest today is Mr. Bikky Khosla, who conceptualized and founded this unique concept for India way back in 1990. Welcome to the show, Mr. Khosla. I'm sure it's going to be a hectic day for you on the net.
I think I'll enjoy it.
That is Mr. Bikky Khosla, the man who's behind tradeindia.com, the portal that you're doing all your business on presently as you're probably watching the show. So you catch up on your newspapers, I'm told.
Yeah, that's the first thing. As soon as I get up, two things I need is my cup of tea and my newspaper. That's how the day starts.
Newspapers served hot, as they say.
Yeah. So if you don't know what's happening around you, it doesn't work. So I think that's the first thing I like to do is catch up on.
But do days normally begin this early?
Yeah, I try and get up at 6:30 and start my day very early. The first thing I do is my newspaper and my tea. Then I'm all set for my morning walk. That's where I think I get my energy. Early morning walk, nice brisk walk, gets you going, you know.
This was a fairly unique concept way back in 1990 when you actually conceptualized the whole thing. Why did you then really feel the need? Because those were just early days of liberalization and all of that.
Yeah, you know, how I started my career was I started working for an export house. From there I graduated to become an exporter. Then way back in 1985, I moved to the US. I lived there for 3 years. And I became an importer. That's where I got this thing that there's a need for something like that. When I was living in the US, we would sit in the evening and meet people, and you know, people would walk up to me, business people, I was in garments, so they would come and ask me, where do I get bolts and fasteners from India? Or how can I buy this product from India? And that's where I realized there was a need for something like that. You know, there's a bridge that is needed between the exporter and the importer.
But let me just ask you a question here. You started this whole thing in early 90s. Not really the best of times for Indian economy. Of course, liberalization just started to happen. Why did you think the time was right in that sense?
The most important thing, whenever I look at a business, I look at is there a need?
That's true.
I saw there was a need. The minute there's a need, my first job of creating a need was not there. So the users were there. The only thing, my biggest challenge was educating the manufacturers and the small, medium entrepreneurs that this could benefit them. That is what was a bigger challenge than anything else.
I'm sure.
So, you know, that time we started out with the print media because there was no net that time. There was no CD, there was nothing. So we started out with the print. As next step was the CD. As the computers became more popular and CD versions became, they weren't floppies, they were CDs. We moved to the CD age. We went on to the CD, and because the book was becoming too heavy for people to carry, to ship out, courier, things like that. And in 90s, late 90s, I didn't know how to open a computer or to touch
That's
a finger.
That's an interesting point there. Mr. Khosla, who runs the business completely on the net, did not know how to probably open a computer. Of course, being very modest there, but a very interesting point.
You know, that time we had 3 computers in our office. And the minute I wanted to do something, I would call one of the computer operators to tell me, can you open it? And I was scared that if I touch one button, I would mess up the whole thing.
When I was actually conceptualizing the whole thing, Trade India, you know, this whole thing on the internet, were you optimistic that this is going to be such a success as it is today?
Frankly, he's been, when we got married, he was in the export trade. So he had a good, knowledge of the entire thing. And he's always been a go-getter.
That's right.
So I was pretty sure that he will make a go of this as well. Yeah.
As Mr. Khosla goes to get ready for work, the key to his success is identifying the need for a product like this at a right time. He says he was an exporter, worked with an export house, went to the US, became an importer, and that is when he identified the need for a product like this. So that's the key to success. So we're off to work now with Mr. Khosla. He stays in a very upmarket part of the city, Vasant Vihar, and that is also where he works. There we are at office, a grueling day ahead. So you're getting ready for work?
Oh yeah.
So you come in, plug, and then forget about home and get onto the net.
It's a very difficult thing to do, but I try to do that.
That's right.
The minute I get home, I want to switch off. I try to be a computer by switching off, and the minute I come here, I want to switch on here and switch off there.
That's true.
It's tough, but it's doable.
But what is the first thing you come and check on your computer? Do you check, what were the sales like? I mean, what is the first thing that you'd want to be hands-on?
The minute I get on, first thing, I don't use the computer. I switch on the computer. Till the time the computer is coming on, I pick up this pad and my pen. And I start noting down what I want to achieve today, one by one.
All right.
I'm a very strong believer of diary and writing. Sales is not one thing I check immediately. Though we have a daily reporting system, we've got systems here where everything is reported. Sitting here, I can tell you what's happening in Chennai or what's happening in Calcutta or what's happening in...
That's right.
But first, it takes me about half an hour to 45 minutes to finish off my mail, which I, pending which came in after last night. So that's the first thing I do. After I've done that, then I start looking at my list and keep adding things while I'm looking at mails. I know what else I need to do for the day, keep adding here.
Sure.
And that's how I start.
A lot of your systems that you work on are the open source community, really, Linux to stay.
Yeah.
Not such a Microsoft believer, really.
I would agree with you. I feel Linux is much better, and OpenOffice and things like that. There are a lot of advantages there. It's just, I think, people's mental block. It took me a lot of time. And my CTO convinced me first that I should start using Linux. Once I got convinced, then we had convinced everybody. But now I'm more comfortable using Linux than Windows.
Sure.
The major advantages using open license products. The no viruses, that's the biggest thing.
That's true.
Advantage.
That's true.
You know?
And also very low on cost, so to say.
Yeah.
As you go on expanding, probably cost becomes a big factor, especially in IT. But a lot of your budget would entail IT expansion, IT expenditure, because so much of it is online.
Yeah, that is true. We have to have very high-end servers, which we have in the US. And as the traffic keeps growing, we need to keep adding servers.
That's true.
We have a lot of computers, a lot of bandwidth we use. We've got our own microlink tower we need because everybody needs to be connected. And without the net, we can't function now even for a minute.
That's right.
Though, earlier we had no issues. So we spent a lot there, but it's a good investment.
The markets have in fact, crossed the 15,000 mark now.
Yeah.
Many thought it was the magical figure for the markets to cross. So another new peak for the markets. Are you a firm believer in the stock markets, really?
Yes, I am. It's been, I've been born up with the stock market. My father, who's about 92 years old, even today, he trades on the stock market, and he is pretty active. He gives me tips what I need to do, and he does a pretty good job. So I was born with the stock market. So as far as I can remember, I've seen him play the market. So that's what I picked up from childhood, and I've been doing it. But it's more a hobby than a business. What I feel is what we need to work on is value-added and high-value products rather than low-end products.
That's right.
Today we have to understand that we cannot compete as of date with China. It says, Chinese prices we can't compete with. But you'll be shocked. I've been traveling a lot abroad, and people have started believing in Indian goods. Indian goods are much more superior than
True.
Chinese goods.
Yeah.
So what I think is we got to push a brand. Made in India brand is what needs to be pushed. And if we can sell high value goods, and that is the way out, and stop exports of raw materials. If you look at India-China trade, I think they're much smarter. We've got a $20 billion trade.
True.
They import raw material from us, and we import finished goods from them.
That's right.
That is the wrong way to go.
Have you ever thought about taking your company public, going for an IPO, going public with this company?
Sure, why not?
But is there a time frame you have in mind? What are the plans there?
I've already been approached by private equity guys, VCs. I've been talking to them regularly, and that process has started. And the reason I'm taking them is, but I'm looking at somebody who could not only bring in money, but could also get value, could add value to my company. So the minute I let them enter, which I am looking at within this year, that is a sure sight that they will look for exit.
That's
and
right.
a way to exit is
To go public.
So the minute I do that, it's a commitment, then I will have to go.
But what kind of a stake dilution will you look at with this kind of a PE investment or with this kind of venture
Initially,
capital coming
the
in?
first round, I would not do more than 10%.
Okay.
In my first round, but I'm going to be a little picky and choosy.
Hitting the capital markets with an IPO is on the cards, and we leave Mr. Khosla as he makes those important urgent calls to speak to PE investors who are already hounding him with calls. This is a review meeting for a brand new feature discussion forum that TradeIndia.com has launched on its site. There will be feedback and discussions to take this feature forward. We'll of course sit through the meeting and figure out how business happens online. It's about 11:30, quarter to 12, that time of the day when Mr. Khosla does his rounds at work, puts up a few questions to his staff and figures out he's very, very hands-on, and we'll just find out why.
Yes, sir.
It's time to go home for lunch, one of the many advantages one really has of living right next to work.